So while you're doing that, can I at least introduce you by name?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. I'd like to introduce Henry Lee. He is the owner of Blue Heron Arts and has whole bunches of videos on YouTube, which are wonderful to watch. I've learned lots of neat things. So thank you for coming and being with us today. We're going to be doing monoprinting, right?
Yes.
And Gay, do we want to also introduce Victoria?
Oh, yeah.
I need help then.
Victoria, come here. Okay, let me introduce. Yeah, my wife, Victoria, she also teaches Chinese calligraphy. Not today, because today we're going to focus on one thing, which is plexiglass. Everybody got the piece of this? Okay, great. And if not, we have some small ones available. Victoria, can you bring those?
Is that those right there?
Oh, it's those are Zen. That's nice.
Okay. Anybody need any? Everybody's good? Oh, you do? Okay, so after demo, maybe you can
Yeah,
talk to
I'll show you the materials. On the handout, let me bring the handout. I already got the handout, right?
Yes.
So let's go through this list. You should have a piece of plexiglass. One side is sanded. Someone asked me already how to do it. It's pretty simple. Can you pass me that? Yeah, thank you. So this is the sand paper I use. I don't know what's the number. Is that 3 or maybe this is the 3 pieces.
It's 60 grit.
60. Yeah, 60 grit.
Coarse grit.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very coarse. You don't have to sand both sides because I always stay on one side, for the prints.
It actually looks like a piece of acrylic.
Yeah, it is acrylic. It could be plexiglass or acrylic. This is a piece of acrylic pad. Okay, this I already sanded, and this is not, so you can see it's clear, right? This one is translucent. Okay, so you what you do is you just this is the same acrylic plexiglass and acrylic. Anything that can hold water, is fine with a smooth surface. I haven't tried other surface yet. You can do it on cement, I guess. Anything with
Wood?
yeah, but wood is too absorbent. So you want something that can hold moisture. So far I just use. Okay, to tell you some history about myself, why I'm interested in doing this, because I was an archaeologist, and we always do stone rubbings. It's the same concept. With stone rubbing, you put a piece of paper on top of stele or relief, and then it's wet. And when it's dry, it kind of goes in when where it's low and goes up, and then you use a pad with ink to. And this is a little different because we put the ink on the glass, or we normally don't like a fish rubbing. We do in the fish. In Chinese way we'll cover the fish and then ink on the outside, not under the paper, on top of the paper. Anyway, there are many ways of rubbing. They are called rubbings in Chinese, or monoprints maybe in English, right? So today's workshop will be the verb exploring the techniques of plexiglass. Okay. So first thing you need to prepare it. You can do in any motion. You can just slide it like that, and just grab any way you want to make it rough. And you can purposely leave some area shining if you want. That will create some interesting effect. You know, or you can sand the entire thing. It's really up to you. Yeah, there's no point to, you know, whether it's enough or not enough. It also depends on what paints you use. If you use acrylic, you may use without sanding, maybe. You know, instead, if the consistency is thick, yes. And I have, let me do this in a historical order, because I'm a historian. I started this research in the early 90s. I brought some painting to show you as we speak, okay? And this was a retrospective show held in University of Wisconsin in Wausau last fall. Did you see that? Yeah. These pieces are showpiece there. So I mounted them. I have some new ones I did yesterday. I'll show you later. So historically, I started. Let me see. We'll try to find the first one first. Okay, maybe this is the one. Yeah. Okay, this one I did accidentally in a workshop in University of Washington Experimental College. What a good name for extension. Experimental College, University Extension is called Experimental College. So I taught there for 9 years while I was a graduate student. And one of the class I did this, and I will try to repeat this later. I just poured the ink on a piece of Plexiglass, which is from a poster frame, I think, something like that. I got, and then blotted onto the mulberry paper, and then I added some contour line of the rock. Let me hold it so people can see. The blotting and pouring is not new. Well, we had that in the written records in the Tang Dynasty. Some artists are really pouring ink, okay, or pouring color. They also do that in the water. If you do that, it's called marbling. Right? This is all very old technique in the record, but it's not the mainstream in Chinese painting. It's we call the game or play of the artist. You do not play this every day because you have no control, basically. I will talk about that later. But I try to control it. The first time I tried to control my line is by crinkle the paper on purpose. So I squeeze the paper. So this is the same paper I used. Okay, and you know it's very strong. This is called the mulberry paper. With the stringy fiber, we call this in our store it's number 2. This is number 1. So I kind of like squeeze the paper where I want the line, and then just you can use anything. You know, I use the brush, the side of the brush to
Crease it.
Crease it. Yeah, crease it. Thank you. So that's how I created this lines on the rock. And then I washed the sky with brush and some remote mountains. I try not to destroy the initial effect created by this rubbing or monoprint. So don't overwork it. Try to keep it like unfinished. You know, keep more room for imagination. That you can imagine the white is snow or clouds. For me, you know what? I think they look like this little pocket could be a glacier, right? But to me, it looked like a broken pottery in a museum. When we repair the broken pieces, you know, we use white. What do you call that?
Plaster?
Plaster, yeah, plaster. I just leave it white. So it's a beauty to see that. It's like broken pottery for me. So anyway, that's just how I started. It's about, I didn't date this piece, but I think it's 1991. And this one is done, I think 10 years later, maybe, actually 20 years later. Time is fast. So it's, I did this in a workshop, 2012, I think.
That may be what I used for the newsletter I sent you. our
Oh, yeah,
newsletter.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I did screenshots of that workshop. I think that was the painting.
Yeah, I did this in one of my in-person workshops with a group of artists, some from Brazil, I remember. I think on the finishing day I did this. And the finishing touch is most important, so you don't overdo it. I added this water with brush, but I didn't touch much. And the same technique you can use with a crinkled paper.
Could you hold?
Yeah. Yeah, that's pouring ink. This one I did in a plein air set. You know, I went out on the beach in PV, the city, and there's a lighthouse there. I didn't really try to be representational, but I tried to paint the feeling, the impression of that place. It's an oceanside view. Yeah. Okay. Lighthouse. Yeah. This is done outside. So they drive very fast. You can feel the make it more grainy. And this is a piece I spent all my rare time, my spare time on for like a month or even more longer, while I was teaching at Western Washington University, State University in Bellingham. So I had lots of time to I just do like 10 minutes, 20 minutes before my classes.
It looks like an engraving.
The sky.
Yeah,
The sky. Did you? Is this a
painted,
water you painted?
Yeah, painted like watercolor painting. Yeah. This water is painted. The others I used a very small dry brush to add all this enhance details. But I got the rubbing or the monoprint first, and I think I overdone some parts. Like this part was a glacier fall, but I filled it up, and I regret it. Maybe I tone a little. I tear the paper away, and then I made a patch. You can not even see it, right? But you can see it. Maybe see through the light. Maybe you can see the patch. Can you see that? No.
Glad to know what happens to the best of everyone.
Yeah, you can.
Cover up.
You can tell, just in the mounting process. That's a different story. So don't overdo it. It's a kind of over a little bit. So this one is acrylic.
Oh, really?
Acrylic paint. It's a liquid acrylic. So it's very vibrant, right?
Can I touch?
Yeah, you can touch that.
It's a little more sandy.
Yeah. These are watercolor. The branches and the flower are added. Some pieces like this, I spend lots of time to look at and think. The finishing touch, it could take much longer time than the rubbing. So I decided to do it this way to try to keep this icy branches, this icicle on the branch.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you find doing this takes more time? If you were doing stroke by stroke, would that be more time?
It's just different. Let me talk about why I do this. Why Plexiglas? That's a good question. So I answered this question on page 2 of the handout. There are at least 5 reasons. First of all, inspiration of composition. So before I do this work, I have no idea where it will lead to. That's the fun part. Normally we don't know. Excuse me, I need some water. Sorry. So in Plexiglas, we don't need to think what to paint until we see something interesting to appear in the chaos. You understand? Because sometimes we just don't know what to do. So you start with something, that's why we do it. It will create natural texture, color, and form. So you just put in, I will show you what we're doing, I'm talking about. So you just put a mixture of ingredients, you call it. And then you would find some effect which is unique, accidental, without control. So then you start to develop a theme, to add a home, whatever. So it's a very different process. Okay, you just open up, you free yourself, basically. So technically, it's very easy. Everybody can do it after today, this workshop, and you'll find it's very enjoyable. Okay. So, do I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Let me continue with the material list before we start. Okay. I use ink cake instead of bottled ink today. You can use bottled ink, but I find more interesting texture with ink cake. This I collected from the spillover. When you have the new box, you have spill. We have a lot. So I decide to take those before we ship it. So they're left out in my. Normally people throw it away. It's a spillover on the cake, right? So I use this today. You can use overnight ink, or you can put the ink, bottled ink, in the sunshine to let it dry, and then you have more particles in it. The grains, the grains, textures. Yeah. Okay, that's you can use some of it if you want. Okay, so the ink we use is this. You can use your bottled ink, no problem. Because we are using mostly the mineral colors, the green and blue, not because they are close to the stone color in Chinese landscape painting, also because they create more texture than the plant colors, the transparent colors. The opaque colors or mineral colors are more suitable for this. And
That's where the acrylic paints work so well.
yeah, the acrylic has different binding. The gum or the gesso or whatever. You can even add that they have special. I don't know what's the gel.
Gel.
Gel. Yeah, you can use that with Chinese color if you want. So, but for that function, I will cook some paste. It's not on the list. Oh, actually, it's on the list. Wheat starch. I didn't mention the brush, although we will use the brush to finish only at the finishing stage. In the beginning, in the first development, I tried to paint on the glass, and I found it's the same thing as you paint on paper. So, like you said, why you do that? So I don't paint on the glass anymore. So I don't use the brush to start with at this point. But back 20 years ago, I do that. I use big brush to paint on those and then just print. I found that even boring than paint on the paper. Why do you do that? That's a good question. So I don't do that, and I ask you not to do that. I keep saying don't use brush to make it before you get the composition, the blocking the composition. Yeah. So I'll show you, the latest. And the latest, actually, it's in here. I did something yesterday, just to try to control the unexpected. I can expect something, but I cannot totally control. But I know something will happen, but not exactly, right? So I try to produce this kind of effect. It's like a botanical garden here, right? But you can do that very easily. But there's some trick. That's why we need this. Okay.
And which paper was that?
It's a mulberry.
Mulberry.
Yeah, mulberry number.
Are these brush strokes?
Good question. I will show you in a minute. So yeah.
I think he was flowing with this.
Yeah, you can see some unfinished, the initial rubbing like that. So this is the pattern we try to create. You can use acrylic to generate this because of the thickness. And for watercolor, we need to increase the value with something. You can use the glue, but it's too expensive, maybe. So starch is very cheap to get. You can use cornstarch, rice starch, or maybe other starch. I found wheat starch is the best because wheat starch is gluten-free and it's very transparent.
Free is nice for the paper.
Let me boil some water. Can someone check the? I think I put water in the pot. It's boiling.
No, I gave you just regular sugar.
Yeah, go for it.
I just put
This
nori
is small.
in there.
Yeah, she put sugar.
He says you can use it,
Yeah.
but it's expensive. So
What's that?
So I would,
What you have?
Okay, let me put this. Yeah, there are more. You can take a look later.
Okay.
This is our experiment. Okay. What we do is like we cook the paste for mounting. We did a workshop. Normally, I do the mounting after every session is done, right? And then we mount the students' work before they leave. So on that day, I did wet mounting workshop. Then when we have time, while we're waiting the mounting the job to dry, we'll do some experiment with the.
Oh, how cool!
Yeah, so it's a natural process. So we don't waste the leftover paste. I found this is a very
How about we do mounting with this?
Yeah, you can mount the painting with this. Maybe we can mount a small piece to show you.
The wallpaper paste also will do the work, because that's what I used to teach my students to do the wallpaper paste already mixed from Home Depot.
I don't think that will work because this is
It's smooth.
yeah, this is much thinner and
I
it's
see.
smooth. It's not thickening anything. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, I need to first of all make it into a batter, so it will numb free. I try to make a lot for everybody. Normally I don't use this much.
Big pot.
Yeah, this big pot.
Can we stir for you?
is that wheat starch to something from Ranch 99?
Yeah,
Chinese groceries.
yeah, Chinese Ranch 99, Chinese grocery store.
And about how much did you put in?
Doesn't matter. You can make it like this, 1 to 10. Eventually, like one portion of starch and 10 water. If you make a jello kind of thing, it was 1 to 7, right? They make it thinner than that. Yeah. Maybe 10 or eventually you can dilute it into even maybe 1 to 15 or something like that.
Why doesn't cornstarch work?
Cornstarch, I think didn't try it. This is more translucent, I think.
Have you tried rice flour? Japanese rice flour?
Yeah, it's
That would
very
too.
translucent. Yeah. So and you see, this is very translucent.
Oh, that's nice. Now turn into glue now.
Yeah. See that? It's And when it's cool, you can use that. Okay. And that's the reason I use this for to create the trees in the landscape or the plants. If you only paint the mountain, you don't have to use that. Let me show you all the options you have.
It's thick.
Yeah. Yeah, this is too thick to use, but I will use water to dilute it. Yeah.